In this video help, we're going to be covering the show invoice, the print invoice. As it was explained in the prior video, this is the sales input for an individual client for the sale on one day for that client. When you're using this screen and you're going to the actual invoice, if you had not provided the information, or say for example you looked at a prior invoice and when you left there you did not show all invoices, you need to do that when you leave here. Just go ahead and click, and in the invoice when you looked at the last invoice, after you print it, click on show all invoices or show all records. What that does is it returns all the records into the current set. In the previous set, it's a found set for one invoice. I don't want to confuse you. What basically this means is that when you do a find in the invoice itself over here, it's going to be for that particular invoice. If you leave that screen, which we're going to go to now to show you this, you'll see that there are all the records in here currently. If you had done a find, say for example, for this walk-in client's record for invoice number 2, that would be the record that would show when you came back here. So the first thing you want to do when you come to the invoice is either do a find, and I recommend that you just say show all to bring all the records in. So now when you do the find, it makes it much easier to do the actual invoice. So in this case, when I come in here, you can see that the current record that is shown on the screen is the one I came from on the sales invoice screen, where that's the input screen. Let's go ahead and do a find for the record that I actually want to print. It's very quick. Just click find and do a drop down. In this case, I'm going to put in the client, and then I'm going to put in the invoice number that I want to actually go. If you want to use a date range, for example, if there's a client that you're working with and there is a date or individual date or a date range that you want to do, typically it would be a date range because I picked the exact invoice I want to do. Find by item number 1 here, which is the invoice ID number 1. If you take this out and then do a date range, say according to what the little instructions up here at the top talk about, using the find to search for a date or date range, this little formula would be put in the date field. You would click one more time and then enter greater than or equal to the start date, less than or equal to the end date. In this case, it's a 30-day period here. Why would you want to do that? Well, if you wanted to back this out, just click one time, and now I'm doing a date or date range lookup. So I would put in the date range and say there's invoices for this client, 3, maybe 4 invoices. You may want to pick up that were through the month and be able to send out a statement of the invoices that may have a balance on them. Then you'd put the date range in there using this formula, and then those invoices would show up on the screen. In this particular case, if it's just one invoice or one name in here, it will pick up all this client's invoices for the history of this particular client. So it would show all of his invoices. So you can do it either way. In this case, I'm just going to go back and I'm going to pick the one invoice I want to see, and I'm going to say perform the find. And what it's going to do is going to be ready to print to show that one. Now, it took quite a while to say all that, but actually it takes almost maybe 2 or 3 seconds to bring up and actually do an invoice. It's just understanding the different ways that you can use this invoice. Now, this is actually a report. There is an infinite number of fields that can be in here. So this reprints as many pages as you have items. And the only part that is going to print is from this area over to the left. This information is all non-printable, so it won't show on, if you went to go print it, none of this would show up. If you were on the browser, like we said many times so far, the commit and revert buttons are used. If you alter any information in here, you can always commit it to save it or revert to take it away. In this particular case, I see where there's no invoice date in here, and there should be an invoice date on this particular record that is not there. So you would want to go back. Oh, no, sorry, here it is up here. In this case, this is the client's, not the client, but this is the store location. In this case, this would be the city. This would be the state, or the city, state, or province, and this is the zip code. It's just some bogus information I put in there for right now, just so that we have something to put into this to show it. The summary totals are all shown up here. If there's a balance, that they would show a balance. In this case, there's no balance. It was paid at the time the invoice was done. So when you print this, it should not show a balance. And this is the information from the input screen that we did the invoice with. Now, if you have any questions, go ahead and email me your questions. And what I was going to close by is one more time, as you're leaving this screen, it's a good idea, after you printed the item, to just click again to show all records. This does two things. It returns all the records to the invoice screen, and it also returns all the records to the sales screens, where all invoices will now be shown again in the current selection. Okay, thank you for taking this video.